Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual convention for Transformers Cyberverse. I'm Jack Conway. You may have seen me at the previous WonderCon and Comic-Con panels for Cyberverse, and I get to spend a day talking with these amazing people who make the show that we love. I'm going to have them introduce, or rather, I'm going to introduce them, and I'm going to have them tell you what they do on the show that we all love. Randolph, please, Randolph Heard, if you could go first.
Hi, I'm Randolph Heard. I'm the story editor, head writer for Cyberverse, and I also did the voices for Bumblebee and Grimlock. Anyone who tells you different is a liar.
I don't know if that's true. All right, next up, Gavin Hignight, please.
Hey, I am Gavin Hignight. I am one of the staff writers on the show for seasons 1, 2, and 3, and I am actually the voice of Grimlock and Bumblebee, so don't believe anyone otherwise.
This is getting very confusing. Zac Atkinson, please clear this up for us.
Yes, hello, I'm Zach, and I too am a staff writer for the series, and I am the voice of Clobber. Maybe.
You do a great job. You bring a lot of emotion to it. Mae Catt, fix this.
Hey, everybody. I'm Mae Catt, and I'm a staff writer, and I obviously voice Starscream.
Dan, we go back, right?
Hey!
Help me here.
Well, I'm actually Randolph Herd, so I'm the story. I'm Dan Salgarolo. I'm a writer and writer's assistant for the show.
All right, Jeremy Levy, please set him straight.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Levy. I have no idea what I'm doing here, apparently, because I don't do anything. No, allegedly, I voiced Bumblebee, Rack and Ruin, Jetfire, Perceptor, and Whirl, and a couple others. I think that's all.
Now that's true. That information is true. You can actually look that up. That's all correct. Ryan, thank you for joining us today. And what are you on the show?
Hi guys. Yes, I'm competing with a few others to voice actual Grimlock. Me actually Grimlock, and also Shockwave, my boys.
Fantastic. Now, Jeremy and Ryan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. We have a little bit of catch up, and we're going to keep it quick because we got 2 seasons pretty quickly. And just for those of you watching, to let you know, we'll be talking about seasons 2 and the first half of season 3. So if you're still catching up and if your region you're not able to see the rest of it yet, don't worry. We're not going to spoil the end of season 3 for you. We'll get about halfway through that. If you would like to watch these episodes and don't have access to them currently, I find that the best way is on YouTube, on the Transformers official site, where you can get all of season 2 as one bingeable block. It's fantastic. And the first, I believe, 4 or 5 episodes are available also on that channel on YouTube, and other ways that you find shows on the internet that you enjoy watching. But that's a great way to catch up. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a very quick summary. What I would like, Ryan, I think I'd like you to tell us as quickly as you can how season 2 went down, and I'm going to give you a choice. You can either tell us from the point of view of Grimlock or from Shockwave. Is that too much of a quiz? I know, I believe in you. Or you can switch halfway.
I mean, I haven't seen season 2 in a minute. I have some catching up to do. I just got up on season 3, but
that's fair. I shouldn't have quizzed you that tightly, but basically just the basic overall of what's happening on Earth before we get back to Cybertron.
All right. Boy, oh boy. So from what I remember, let's be Shockwave. So we are definitely we are in hot contest with the idiotic.
You're doing great. You're doing great, dude.
Thanks. Yeah.
Fireside Decepticon Theater.
The Autobots have foiled plans again and again, and now it's time to take back Cybertron. Shockwave has plans. Shockwave always has some plans, and his plans are generally diabolical. Let's just say that from what I remember, it goes pretty well. And then it
For
doesn't.
yes, for Shockwave it absolutely does. Shifting to where it doesn't go quite as well for Shockwave, jumping into season 3, so we get to Cybertron. Now I'm going to pass it over to you, Jeremy. I'm going to give you the same choice. You can tell us as Bumblebee, Perceptor, or Jetfire.
I got to tell you, I thought Ryan was doing a great job. I think he should keep going. That's
what we call passing the buck.
As Bumblebee, Perceptor, or Jetfire. Wow.
Or Whirl.
Okay.
Your call.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's try Jetfire, perhaps a little bit. We left our heroes, and they won the war. Suddenly, they find themselves in a grand parade, where Optimus Prime is, of course, on a float congratulating everybody. Huzzah! Good show, boys!
Sorry,
yeah.
that was awesome.
Perfection. That was
Jolly
perfection.
good.
You're
I know-
hired.
I know everything that I need to know now.
Yeah.
And I thank you for that.
That's it. Well, you're welcome.
All right, I'm going to jump over to some writing questions real quick. First off, Gavin, I want you to pronounce the name of the judges of the universe. Starts with a Q. I want to hear you say it.
Well, I will tell you from the get-go that one of the scenes we didn't have time for that we really wanted to write was a debate between our characters on Quintesson versus Quintesson, because that was a fiery debate, not only in fandom, but also in the writer's room.
Yes. I feel like it's sort of like aluminum and aluminium. Both sound good. It's just depending on which region you're from, I suppose. So the quintessence, which I've taught myself how to say it correctly now, I wanted to talk to you real quickly about your choice to use them as your storylines for season 3, and basically making a new band that we hadn't seen before of characters, namely getting to see like Hot Rod and Clobber and Perceptor, again said differently, Dead End, Whirl, Soundwave. What was the choice there to make that small group that we just hadn't seen work together before? What led us in that direction?
Well, I think that we wanted to just, the Transformers has had such a long history, and we wanted to shake things up and just give our audience and new audiences some stories they don't expect. You're often watching Megatron versus Optimus and everyone else fall in line. And I think the vibe in the room was, how can we change that? And how can we approach it in a different way that feels fresh? And we had wanted and hoped to work with the Quintessons from early on. And we were so psyched that Mike Hauser and the Hasbro team were really into it. So it was just kind of, I think we all knew the ingredients we wanted to use, and that was the cake that baked. I think Randolph could speak better to our motley crew of defenders who were trying to save Cybertron. But yeah, it was just telling a new story.
Well, to that end, Randolph, would you like to speak to that a little bit about, the challenges, obviously, of having, and I know that you wrote these as well, Gavin, the time loop, having to sort of repeat yourself every episode to make the point. What did you take from that as to what you could sort of work on the relationships between them because of that repeat?
I'd rather not say.
Is it too painful after everything that happened?
Gavin, so is that like a cool red side light you got going on there? What's going on there?
I'm on Cybertron, man.
Okay, that's a good explanation.
What more of an answer?
I forgot the question, but it was about the loop. I mean, the loop. Everyone loves a parade. I mean, that was our first thought, and that we wanted to kind of really just throw you for a loop, literally. Ooh, bad pun. But from the battle from Cybertron's ended, and you come back, and then they're having a parade. It seems normal, and then we start to understand that it's actually the plot of a new enemy that we haven't explored before, and the Quintessons, and also a ragtag crew bringing together Autobots and Decepticons, and experiment with a smaller set of personalities. And I don't know, that maybe is my favorite part of the whole series right now, is that section with those robots, those bots banding together. And trying to learn to work together. It seems like it just has a really good feeling to it.
Yeah, some real magic came out of it. Stuff that I don't even think we expected when we started putting the team together. Clobber really rose to the top for us very quickly as a favorite character.
Well, let's talk about that within the loop. May, if I may ask you, you had the episode, I believe it was The Dead End, in which
Yes.
Clobber and Dead End, we sort of see a little bit of their relationship. We learn a lot more about Dead End as she tries to rescue him. Going into that, did you have any inspirations on their friendships, or even if you can even call it that, or on just Dead End and his character choice, and how much did you enjoy putting them together and figuring out how
Right.
they work?
I mean, yeah, my episode got to explore the Decepticon loop, which was also having a parade as though they had also won the war. And friendship is a very strong word to use for Dead End. I don't think he would ever admit to having friends. Dead End was a fun character because I remember when we were kind of figuring out the Motley Crew, we all kind of gathered around and were able to pitch first Randolph and then like our higher ups, like who we wanted to be in there. And I think Gavin was the one that suggested Dead End based on, well, he's a cool stunt car from the Stunticons, but then he's also got this attitude of nihilism, which you would expect with a species that's been at war for 4 million years. So it seemed really fun to have that character not only appear in the show, but appear at the worst possible time to be a Transformer, to be a Cybertronian, so that he could bring, just the attitude of being like, we've been invaded. Like, I don't I love when he first gets out of the loop and he's just wandering around just being like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And to be able to pair him up with everybody else in the Motley Crew, especially like Perceptor, he and Perceptor kind of hit it off in a fun way that we found quite natural.
I think that is the beauty, is when you, the writers, would sort of find the similarities in that they are all from the same planet. I mean, in season 2, we got to see, Wheeljack and Shockwave sort of have little moments together. It made sense in a way. They are similar in almost as similar as they are different. And I love that they sort of had to remember that at times, because sometimes they had to team up, as we'll get later into that season. Dan, you had the flip side of that parade, the Autobot side, and getting and Hot Rod's frustration of kind of getting in and out of that. Yeah. How was that with working with, other characters we hadn't gotten to see before? Like, you really get to flesh out Perceptor and play with him a little bit, who he is. What were some fun moments in that for you?
That was a tough one. That was a really tough episode because, once again, coming from a world of writing half-hour, longer scripts, having to condense something like that where we're both having to service this continuous loop with Hot Rod trying to get Optimus out and Perceptor discovering this big secret of the Titan. That was a really tough one. I remember writing and figuring out how to condense it down. But I think my favorite moment was Randolph introducing me to Hank Williams music, because we wanted to kind of cue that as a theme at the beginning for the music that Clobber is dancing to. Kind of give her that kind of, she's having fun in this melancholy kind of moment, and give her a little bit of character. That was one of my favorite parts about that, the process of writing that.
Dan, I hate to tell you this, but in the finished product, they didn't use anything like Hank Williams, even though we asked them to.
Well,
I know.
We wrote, the Cybertronian equivalent of Hank Williams.
Yeah, the spirit is there.
You took all those line dancing lessons for no reason, Dan.
Oh.
A lot of robot boot scooting.
I gotta say, it wasn't for lack of trying, but in a later episode in the Alliance, we wanted to do a training montage with the touch playing over it, and we got something, I think, similar, but not quite as good.
Our composer,
not Stan Bush.
Our composer really, I think he hit it like as a sound-alike, as the spirit of the touch. I think he nailed it.
We shot for the moon on that one. We were like, if we can get the touch, that'd be great, but if not, it's all right.
I think even Stan Bush knew that he had lightning in the bottle in that one. I think that one's hard to chase down and find that moment again. Also, if I may, Dan, to stick with you for just a minute, is the road. I feel like your episodes, especially in that point where the changes in Hot Rod, in which he even himself, told by Perceptor that they were waiting for some sort of leader, and he just assumed that meant Optimus Prime. What was the challenge in sort of keeping that in your back pocket of knowing sort of the path that Hot Rod could take, but not, pointing it out to us?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a recurring theme with Hot Rod throughout the seasons, and knowing also his previous iterations turning into Rodimus. But like we even had in season 2 this moment of Optimus saying, "Hey, one day you're going to need to be a leader," and so we kind of kept that in the back of our minds as we were writing it. This idea that Hot Rod is going to need to lead at some point, and he kind of already is, but he still doesn't see himself that way, and it takes kind of this endless, frustrating loop to make him realize it. And even in some ways, later on, the release of Soundwave challenging him and challenging his position that he's kind of naturally built with Dead End and Clobber, to make him realize that he is, equipped and ready for that role.
I think it's safe to say that Hot Rod goes through many trials. Speaking of, hey Zach,
What's up?
I thought that was a pretty good segue. So Zach, you had the onus on you to show us a little bit more about Mae Catt and what's going on, as well as really, really put Hot Rod through his paces through the trials. What can you tell us about that? Some of again, you had to sit on a few like hot stories too, and not give it away right away. Was that complicated to sort of get the storyline there without giving it away?
Shoot, complicated, yes and no. I always push a lot for Mae Catt to be in the series, and fortunately, Mike Hauser always said yes to that. He's a very fun character. He's had a huge role in a lot of the comics, especially, but never much of a presence in the TV shows or anywhere else on film or animation. And so, bring him in the show in the first place was a lot of fun in the first season, and we kept trying to find a way to bring him back into the second season. It just never made any sense. So, getting a chance here in the third season where all our characters are in this dire situation and they needed something and someone somewhere to kind of have a base of operations for this sort of mini rebellion that they're fighting to try and break everyone free from this entrapment that they're in. It presented itself as a really great opportunity. And then there was a lot of debate and talk and discussion over, well, okay, we have a lot of really great ideas. We know what we want to do with Mae Catt. We've always known some ideas of what we wanted to do with him, but how exactly do we make these reveals work so that it feels organic and natural? And having him be this sort of last person alive in an entire city that is actually not a city but a living giant insane war robot kind of fit right in. So that was
with working with the trials of Hot Rod, etc. Did you find yourself digging more back into his history to sort of discover what someone like him would sort of dig up on his own about himself when faced with judgment? Essentially, was there more to his backstory that you may have discovered when writing for him?
Well, I mean, I can't really take full credit for this because I feel like this came out of the room, so it's very much was a group effort for Hot Rod. But this entire run in this section of the third season for Hot Rod was him really facing this situation of is he a leader or is he not? Can he do it? And he's gone through these issues of self-doubt all along the way. And there's even these great moments where Perceptor basically tells him, hey, we need a leader. And Perceptor means Hot Rod, but Hot Rod thinks, oh, well, I got to go get Optimus. And, so he's kind of had these moments of self-doubt of who he is and who he could be and who he needs to be in this moment. And he gets these unusual teachers all along the way. So having him in this trial and this judgment was kind of bringing a lot of that to this point of just sort of passing along all this development we've been working on through that whole section of the series for him. So it definitely wasn't on me. This was very much a group effort led by Randolph. And we talked a lot about Hot Rod in the room and how he was growing and challenging his own perceptions of himself. So.
Yeah, and I'll add to what Zach was saying. One of the, I think, very conscious decisions we had was, we didn't want it to be like, oh, crack open the Matrix and now he's a leader. We wanted a Cyberverse to be different in the fact that we see Hot Rod naturally evolve from his experiences into being a leader versus, maybe another continuity or another version where, open this thing and all of a sudden you're a heroic leader. We wanted to see a kind of a different take on him going into that position.
Fantastic. I'd like to talk to Jeremy and Ryan for just a moment. Jeremy, in season 1 with Bumblebee, the challenges I would guess, and I think we've discussed before, is that Bumblebee literally would change voices every few moments and be referencing other media, etc. Once he finally got his voice box fixed, then he got to have really his own voice. Between the characters that you got to voice for seasons 2 and 3, which one would you say had the most fun inspiration for you in that you pulled from someone you knew, someone maybe from another show or something, from some media that you enjoyed, or just something that's part of you maybe? Who do you think had the most inspiration that made you excited about that character?
So I would say first and foremost would be Perceptor. I adored playing the character, and it was very clear from the beginning that we did not want to make him like an android, because there are versions of Perceptor where he's like extraordinarily clinical and he almost doesn't feel all the way, for lack of a better word, human, even though none of them are human. So we needed to find a way to make him very sort of rational and very no nonsense, but still give him a semblance of a personality. So I started with Spock. I definitely felt like he has Spock moments about him. But there's another part of him that just sort of, he knows he's the smartest guy in the room. So he has no patience for anyone else. So I took the Doctor from Doctor Who. I give him a little bit of flavor of the Doctor. But he's also, he's a tough guy and he kicks some butt. So I threw in a dash of Batman.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, delivering a line, the line of basically like I've just blown out my own optics, and saying that with almost zero emotion was so shocking and fantastic. The delivery was wonderful and really set the tone for the character. So congratulations both to the writing and the delivery. And it really set the bar.
We put Perceptor through a lot.
Did you monsters?
My favorite line. Are you holding your own arm?
Yeah. I want to know what happened to his arm. I have my theories, but I imagine it was a smoothie maker accident gone awry, but I'm not exactly sure.
Did you, Jeremy, get to have fun moments where you were literally talking to yourself in a room in which your characters would interact and you got to like really play off of them? And how schizophrenic did that feel?
I did get to do that. There were a couple sessions where I played a number of characters. It was really weird. It was really weird at first. I got kind of used to it and I sort of enjoyed it. But I got to the point where I inhabited these characters to a certain degree. So it just became like clockwork. I wouldn't even think about it, and I would just move from one to the other.
Fantastic. I'm going to jump to Ryan. Similar question to you, Ryan. Now, Ryan, you also got to run the gamut. Speaking of schizophrenic characters, with Grimlock and his two sides, but also you got to run the gamut of being both Decepticons and Autobots. And Jeremy, I know that you did some as well, but I mean, such a drastic shift between obviously Shockwave and Grimlock. Same question is, as far as inspirations or pieces of family, friends, or yourself, or characters you enjoy from media, which do you think is the most fun and inspiring for you of your character list?
Well, it's funny because Grimlock actually is also two voices. He's a dichotomized person in that he's, and this is kind of neat in that I grew up watching Transformers with Grimlock being just a dumb roaring brute,
right?
Voiced by Greg Berger, which I loved, but this was the chance to show the intelligent side of Grimlock. And so when I was figuring out the voice with Randolph in the early days, the like touchstone for smart Grimlock was kind of like one of the Three Musketeers mixed with like an American version of Gambit, kind of. Like, he has bravado, he's got a little bit of cool, he's kind of he's like a very likable guy with a lot of spirit and a lot of flair, right? And then he becomes a dinosaur, and as soon as that happens, he's basically the Hulk, right?
Right.
And there's like the best part for me was getting to do that voice. Like, hands down, that was the honey at the end of the rainbow, was getting to be Smash Grimlock, because that's the stuff that I remembered, and that's the stuff that I wanted to do so bad. So yeah, I mean, those I really pulled from old Transformers voice remembrance for the Smash Grimlock, and I think that's what really brought him to what he is. And on the other side, with Shockwave, I think, you know, I actually found that to be more challenging in that they're so, I mean, these two characters are so very different from each other, but I love getting to be, I actually really love getting to be a bad guy. And it kind of, to like point to Jeremy in this one, I actually used Spock because he's such a scientist, right? And he's like sort of devoid of emotion. So it's like evil Spock mixed with like evil Batman. Like, those were like my two major touchstones, and I feel like that's what I delivered.
Spock Batman.
When I was first getting into understanding the characters, when I was first hired, I understood Shockwave as Mirror Spock.
Yeah,
that was my shortcut for him.
That's great.
Yeah, in the writer's room, we always saw Shockwave that same way. We always went through the Spock filter, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Transform and prosper.
Yeah.
But I would say to
please.
Ryan that, you know, it's a tribute to what you brought to the role. That, like, you know, at first, even with Hasbro, before we got into the scripts, there was a bit of a fight against the idea of changing Grimlock in this way. And then when it first came out, you know, some fans were uncomfortable, because when things change, fans can be uncomfortable. And I feel like they really grew to love this characterization, and that's what you brought to it. And, you know, really appreciate that, because it's made it more multi-dimensional and fun, right? So, yeah, good job.
Thank you,
Agreed.
Randolph. That means a lot.
Absolutely agreed.
Yeah.
In previous conventions we've done before, I've gotten to ask you folks like who you maybe wanted to see on the show that wasn't there yet, and you would always give me a wry smile, because no matter who it was, they were about to show up. Suddenly Skybite is actually on the show. So instead of asking that, what I would like to ask is, in these two seasons, I'll start with you, Mae, was there a character that, even if maybe you didn't go in thinking that you would enjoy them so very much, that you were excited to see that would be your script, or that you would really push to be like, oh, I really want this one because that character's in it? Is there one that you really fell in love with that maybe you didn't know in the beginning, or maybe it was someone you always wanted to write for?
Yeah, for sure. I think over the course of the show, I really fell in love with Soundwave, and I'm so sorry to the guys. They had to watch me fall in love with him, and so there would just be weeks where I was like, but the cassettes, the cassettes! And luckily enough, we were able to at least get Laserbeak in. So Soundwave I fell in love with. Perceptor I fell in love with as well, and I did not expect to enjoy the Microscope of all people, and yet he became one of like the funnest people to write.
Hey, it wouldn't be a WonderCon or Comic-Con panel without this. The
10-minute warning.
10-minute
Fantastic.
warning.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So actually, it's our 8-minute, 50-second warning now. But anyways.
Got it.
Copy
Talk
that.
faster.
Gavin.
Yes, and I'd like to pass that to you actually as well, Gavin. Is there a character that maybe you couldn't wait to get your hands on and it turned out exactly like you thought, or is there maybe one that you didn't expect that you really fell in love with?
I couldn't wait to work with a Quintessence. Now I'm having trouble saying it and I've said Quintessence my whole life. But I couldn't wait to work with them. I loved them in the movie. I'm a big fan of that fourth season of G1. You know, where we're galactic and we're seeing, you know, more of them as a nemesis. So yeah, working with them and then putting our own spin on it, really making them as nightmarish as we can, and then, you know, seeing some new version of them born with a familiar face. All of that was just absolute joy for me.
Zac, did anyone jump out for you in seasons 2 or 3 that was a hearty meal to write for that you enjoyed?
Wow. I mean, McAdam was just such a pleasure to explore him. And that guy's like an onion, like a robot onion. You just peel the layers.
Great answer. Dan, anyone that was your skip to dessert and you get to write them?
Oh man, you know, I think it was probably Cup of the established characters. I didn't really get him at first, But then, you know, and I think it took us a while to really nail down, like, what is Cup's role here and what are we doing with him? But then, you know, in our big sort of mid-season blowout couple of episodes, we really found a fun thing for Cup. And then also of the new ones, the quintessence scientist, he's the best.
All right, I feel like this is the time for you all to come clean about what you snuck in the show that you're proud of. Now, I noticed in the, like, for example, I noticed in the parade we had beryllium, which I thought only came in bologna. I would love to know what other things you are very proud of yourselves. And it doesn't have to be anything, but I'll bet there's a couple things in there.
I already
that,
know
you can't believe you
Randolph's
did
favorite. I already know Randolph's favorite.
Is it Repugnus? Who's behind him?
Well, the probing alien quintessence.
I am most proud of.
What?
Oh.
The probing aliens.
Did we get that in? Oh my God.
You did. You crazy man, you did it.
What was yours, Mae? And again, it doesn't have to be from previous Transformers. It can be from any media that you are very proud of sneaking in there.
No, I am so proud of the dialogue that I got to write between Starscream and Megatron for 212, I Am the Allspark, where Starscream is like, I really should thank you. And then Megatron's just taking the wind out of his sails like, you're welcome. That is, I'm so proud of that.
It was a beautiful moment.
Thank you.
And Ryan and Jeremy, and by the way, writers, please jump in if I didn't get to yours. Did you have wiggle room on delivery and like adding little bits? Was that something in the recording sessions that you're able to throw in little ideas?
Yeah, I would. I think that we were. So I mean, we would get a couple as written. I mean, I guess the scripts were kind of okay as written. Thankfully, people like Ryan and I could really lift it up to the next level and come through to the other side. Yes, I mean, I think we tried a lot of stuff, and sometimes we got like, oh yeah, that's great, let's put it in. And sometimes it was you can shut up now, Jeremy, and you can say the lines. So you're not really sure which one you got. But yeah, I think just having that dialogue open was great. Everyone was like, you know, very, very receptive to making it a team effort.
Very nice. Ryan, did you feel that you got sense of play? Or I hope I'm not like, exposing a horrible controlling environment, but I don't believe I am. Thank you for the 5 minutes.
No, I mean, I think a lot of it, like the scripts are great, and I think a lot of the stuff that we like can bring as far as being voice actors is the interline stuff. You know, the small reactions, the grunts, the grumbles, the things that like make us more personable or more human, robotic in a way, and I feel like that's the real flavoring that we get to add. I want to say something too. I was watching season 2 recently, and I heard you guys wrote something that I never even noticed before. Do you remember Aztec astronauts?
That line is so good.
Yeah.
So good.
That's a Randolphism right there.
I believe it's Teletran, right? That explains, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like nobody had been on the moon except for Aztec astronauts.
Yeah, that was a Randolphism.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. That was really cool.
Until there were moon cheetahs.
So 3-minute warning, my friends.
3 minutes. I just want to say real quick that I'm really proud of Clobber, because Clobber to me is not the woman warrior thing. Clobber is a female character who is not the brightest, who is very strong, but she really has something that I feel like a lot of cartoon shows don't have for their female characters. You know, this is something really compelling. But I love her. What can I say? And I'm glad that we achieved her and put her in. You know, she's good.
Yeah, it was congratulations to the beautiful moment in season 2, I think it was, where she'd mentioned something about if she, you know, if the war ended, etc., she'd buy another optic, and was told like, no, you look great with one. And that moment of her just like, oh, it's really nice. I was in love right then. I was like, well, this is my new favorite character.
And then she punches Hot Rod.
And then she punches Hot Rod.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the punching. Well, obviously, as we're wrapping up here, I know we've talked before about the amazing support you guys have got from Hasbro and Mikkel Hauser, who we've talked with before as well. I mean, for goodness sakes, you got to build a figure of Mae Catt made. I mean, how In what universe does that
Damn.
happen?
Back and ruin.
Damn.
Rack and Ruin toys, man.
And a
I know.
repugnant.
Yes, and yes, and
And
Repugnant.
and a quintessent judge figure. Hello.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
An
did
official
it.
one.
We did it, guys. I'm taking credit for some reason. Randolph, is there anything else you'd like to speak to on that? Because I know that you had the most connections there, and that people would tell you what could and couldn't happen. Was that just as pleasant in seasons 2 and 3 as it was in 1?
They trusted us by 3 and even in 2 and encouraged us to go for it. So creatively, I felt like we were really supported. And Mike Hauser, also a great leader for us. And I just wanted to thank Ryan, Jeremy, all our voice actors. I do want to call out Billy Bob Thompson because he also did a dual thing. He did Starscream and he did Grimlock. Not Grimlock, sorry.
Jack.
Half minute warning, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, it's
Oh,
time.
wrap it up.
So, and I just want to thank out the people who've been so supportive on Twitter, other places, our fans, because you seem to like what we like about the 3rd season. That gives us a great feeling. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Well, how I like to end these is that everyone's going to do their transformation noise at the same time. It'll be on 3, and we're going to do our transforming noise, and then we quick wave goodbye. And thank you all for joining us today. And that is on 1, 2, 3.
Hey guys.